curious minds, welcome to ProjexCellence ProDigy, your one-stop solution for all your project management needs. I'm Govind, PMP certified, and today we are diving into one of the most crucial aspects of project management, project risk management. Imagine you are leading a 20 megawatt solar power plant project. Suddenly, supply chain delays and push your procurement timeline off track. Or unexpected weather conditions slow down the installation. So what do? If you have a solid risk management plan, you are not just reacting, you already have a game plan. In this session, we will break down the 7 processes of project risk management along with their inputs, tools and techniques and outputs, ITTOs. Let's get started. Project risk management involves identifying, analyzing, planning, responding to, and monitoring risk. Its goal is to maximize positive risk and minimize negative risk to improve the project success. There are total 7 processes in project risk management, 5 processes in planning process group and 1 process each in executing process group and monitoring and controlling process group. The first process is plan risk management. Here, we define how the risk management activities will be conducted in the project. Second process is identify risk. In this, we detect and document potential risk that could impact the project, both threats and opportunities. Next process is perform qualitative risk analysis. In this, we prioritize risk based on their probability and impact using the qualitative techniques. Next process is perform quantitative risk analysis. Here, we use numerical techniques to measure the overall risk exposure, like Monte Carlo simulation. This is the optional process in project risk management. Next is plan risk response. Here, we develop strategies to minimize the threats and maximize the opportunities. Next is implement risk responses. So in this process, we ensure that the planned risk responses are executed well. And the final process is monitor risk. It tracks identified risks, evaluate effectiveness of responses, and detects new risks. Let's discuss each process in detail with inputs, tools and techniques and outputs. We will take one project for the reference, installation and commissioning of 20 megawatt solar power plant, and we'll try to relate the processes in its context. First process is plan risk management. As name suggests, in this process, we will plan how to conduct risk management activities for the project. So inputs here are project charter. This document provides a high-level overview of the project, including objectives, scope, and initial risk. For example, for our 20 megawatt solar power plant project, the risk could be delay in permits and approvals from local authorities or unavailability of land due to some legal disputes. So this all inputs we can get from project charter. Next input is project management plan. This is the overall blueprint of the project, how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled. All its subsidiary plan like scope, schedule, cost, procurement, these all plans will give inputs for plan risk management. If suppose the procurement management plan states that solar panels will be imported, so there will be the risk of custom clearance delays that should be considered. Or if the schedule management plan has a strict deadline, so the risk of weather related delays needs mitigation. Project documents such as stakeholder register will help in risk planning. The stakeholder register identifies key stakeholders, including government agencies, investors, and local communities. If, let's say, local communities oppose the project due to the environmental concerns, so it can be a potential risk. EEFs, external conditions like industry standards, regulatory policies, and market conditions will influence the risk management. Suppose if the government introduces new solar tariffs, so it will definitely impact the project feasibility. OPAs, internal company resources and past experiences will certainly be useful for planning the risk management. If the company has previously installed solar plants in other locations, so lessons learned from those projects can guide the risk planning. Come to the tools and techniques. Expert judgment. Seeking advice from professionals who have experience in managing risk for similar project. Like a procurement manager advises that solar inverters have long lead times. So procurement risk must be managed accordingly. Data analysis. This tool is used to analyzing data to understand stakeholders' risk tolerance and concerns. For example, investors may have a low risk appetite and want a contingency plan for potential cost overruns. Local government may impose strict environmental regulations, so which will increase the compliance risk. Suppliers may highlight potential logistic delays for imported solar panels. So by understanding all these concerns, the team can prioritize risk and allocate resources effectively. Meetings. Holding discussions with key stakeholders to define the approach for managing risk. For example, in the kickoff meeting, the team decides that high impact risk like procurement delays will be escalated to senior management for quick decision making. And the team also agrees to review risks monthly and update the risk register accordingly. Outputs. So after carrying out plan risk management process, we will get detailed risk management plan document as an output. It will contain all the details as risk strategy, how the project will manage the risk, what type of methodology, tools and techniques will be used for the risk management. Roles and responsibilities will be clearly mentioned who will handle different risk related activities. What about funding? How much contingency reserve is kept aside for unexpected cost overruns? It will detail what is the risk appetite of stakeholders, and it will contain the risk reporting formats and tracking processes. Next process is identify risk. In this process, we identify the individual project risk as well as the sources of overall project risk. So inputs here are project management plan. So for this process, we have to refer all the subsidiary plan of project management plan, like requirements management plan. It will help identify objectives that are at risk. For example, delays in obtaining necessary permits could impact the timeline for the solar plant commissioning. Schedule management plan. It identifies uncertainties in project schedule. For example, weather-related delays in construction or shipment of solar panels could be risk. Cost management plan we have to refer. So we have to pinpoint the areas of cost uncertainty like fluctuating material prices or unexpected site preparation costs. Quality management plan. It ensures the areas that could affect the quality. For example, if the solar panels do not meet expected standards, so it could lead to performance risk. Resource management plan. It identifies resource related risk like shortage of skilled labor or critical equipment like cranes for the installation. Risk management plan. It provides the guidelines for risk activities. For example, it may outline specific categories like technical or external risk, like potential delays from regulatory bodies. Project documents. Project documents as assumption log, cost estimates, duration estimates, issue log, requirement documentation we just spoke about, and stakeholder register will give inputs to identify the possible risk. Cost estimates indicates areas that might pose risk. Duration estimates will help identify the potential delays which may pose the risk to the project. Agreements. Contracts and agreements help identify risk by highlighting potential delays, cost overruns, and quality issues. For example, if a contract mandates solar panel delivery by a fixed date, so any delay could impact the project schedule. So penalty clauses may increase the cost if the project runs late. Fixed price contracts could limit flexibility, while poor quality materials might require rework. Exchange rate fluctuation could also raise the procurement cost. Procurement documentation. Procurement documentation includes the supplier performance and agreements. A vendor's past delays or quality issues may indicate the future risk. Frequent changes in procurement scope can cause the cost and schedule risk. EEFs. Factors such as published materials, industry studies, and benchmarking provide insights into risk common in similar projects. For example, benchmarking against other solar projects might reveal the risk related to site-specific issues or regulatory changes. Organizational process assets, checklists from previous project or risk statement formats can provide the valuable information. For example, reviewing checklist from earlier solar power plant installation might reveal common logistical or environmental risks like transportation delays or supply chain disruptions. Tools and techniques, expert judgment. So we can engage consulting experts who have experience with similar project. They can identify risk based on past projects and their industry knowledge. Data gathering, collecting information from various sources to identify risk. So there are many methods for this, like brainstorming. Team members discuss potential risks together. Checklist. If you have pre-made checklist of common project, so it will help identify the risk for your current project. Interviews. Talking to key stakeholders and experts to identify the risk. Data analysis. Analyzing different aspects of the project to uncover the risk, like root cause analysis, finding the real reason behind the potential risk. For example, if solar panel damage is a risk, so root cause analysis might show that improper handling during transportation is the main issue. Assumptions and constraint analysis, checking assumptions and limitations for hidden risk. For example, assuming land permits will be approved quickly could be a risk if the government processes take longer than expected. SWOT analysis, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. For example, a project strength is having a skilled team, but a weakness is dependency on a single supplier, which could cause the delays. Interpersonal and team skills. We use facilitation skills to ensure the effective risk discussion. For example, a risk workshop is organized where all the engineers, procurement staff, and site managers collaborate to list down the potential risks and their mitigation plans. Prompt list. It is a predefined categories to identify risk systematically. Some common strategic frameworks are more suitable for identifying the sources of overall project risk, like PESTEL, political, economical, social, technological, legal, environmental. So we see all aspects from where the risk can occur. TCOP, technical, environmental, commercial, operational, political. VUCA framework, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Meetings. The risk workshop is conducted with the suppliers, contractors, and engineers where risks are identified. Outputs. We get the output risk register, a list of identified risks, their possible impact, assigned owners, and potential risk responses are mentioned in the risk register. Risk report. A summary of overall project risk, which categorize threats and opportunities and the risk trends. Project document updates. We have to revise the project documents such as assumption log, issue log, and lessons learned register. Next process is perform qualitative risk analysis. In this process, we rank project risk based on how likely they are to happen and how much they can affect the project. This helps the team focus on the most important risk first. Inputs here are project management plan. So here the subsidiary plan, the risk management plan will provide the guidelines for this process, which outlines who is responsible for managing risk, what is the available budget, timeline, risk categories, and risk metrics. Project documents like assumption log. It lists the assumption that might affect risk priority. For example, if the assumption is that the skilled labor is available, but later stage there is a shortage, so the impact on the schedule increases. Risk register, another project document. It contains all previously identified risks that need to be evaluated for probability and impact. Stakeholder register. It lists key people who can be assigned as risk owners. Enterprise environmental factors. So industry data and external report that provide risk insight from similar projects. For example, if a study shows that 80% of solar projects face weather-related delays, so weather risk should be a top priority. OPAs, lessons learned from previous projects, company policies, and risk checklist. For example, if past project faced transportation issues for heavy transformers, so a mitigation plan can be included. Come to the tools and techniques. So expert judgment, consulting the experts with experience in similar projects to assess the risk. Data gathering, like interviews. So conducting structured interviews with project stakeholders to understand risk probabilities and impacts. Data analysis means the risk data quality assessment. We are checking if risk related data is reliable and complete. For example, if site survey data for soil conditions is incomplete, so what will happen? The risk of foundation failure for solar panel structure may not be accurately assessed. Another data analysis is risk probability and impact assessment. So we evaluate how likely a risk is and how severely it can affect the project goals. Assessment of other risk parameters, considering additional factors like urgency, detectability, and manageability of risk. For example, if bad weather can delay the foundation work, but forecast allow early detection, so the team can plan the work shifts accordingly. Interpersonal and team skills. Facilitation. What it means? A skilled facilitator helps project teams discuss risk effectively and reach a consensus on prioritization. Risk categorization. What it means? We group the risk based on sources to focus on high risk areas like procurement risk could be delayed deliveries of inverter and transformer or solar panel. Construction risk could be poor soil conditions delaying the foundation work, or environmental risk could be unexpected heavy rainfall affecting the installation schedules. Data representation. So we used probability and impact metrics. So risk are mapped based on likelihood, low, medium, high, and impact, low, medium, high, to prioritize the high risk items. For example, a grid connection delay, high probability, high impact is given the top priority, while minor transportation delays, low probability, low impact, are monitored but not a major concern. Another way of data representation is hierarchical charts, or we call it bubble charts. So it is used when multiple risk factors need to be visualized. For example, a risk that is urgent, highly detectable, and has a major cost impact. So it can be represented with a large bubble in the risk chart. Meetings, what it means? The dedicated meetings where risks are reviewed, categorized, and prioritized. Accordingly, the risk owners are assigned for each major risk. Outputs, project document updates. During the perform quality risk analysis process, key project documents like assumption log, issue log, risk register, risk report are updated based on new insights gained about risk. Next process is perform quantitative risk analysis. In this process, we use numbers to assess how all identified risk and uncertainties may impact the project's overall goals, like cost, schedule, and performance. This is optional process and it is not required for every project, but where it is used, it is performed throughout the project. Inputs here are project management plan. So the components like risk management plan, which defines how the quantitative risk analysis will be performed, what resources are available, and how often it will be done. Scope, schedule, and cost baselines will provide the starting points to analyze how risk and uncertainties may affect the project. Project documents like assumption log, it lists the key project assumptions. If assumptions are uncertain, they may be considered as risk. Cost and duration estimates, so which are used to assess how price changes or delays could affect the overall budget and schedule. Risk register and risk report identify key risks that could have a significant impact. Another project document, milestone list and schedule forecast. These will help assess the likelihood of meeting major project deadlines. EEFs, we can refer the industry studies and risk databases. OPAs, we can refer the lessons learned from past projects. Tools and techniques, again the expert judgment, we can involve consulting experienced professionals who understand the risk analysis models. Data gathering, interviews, we can collect the insights from team members, vendors, or experts through the structured interviews. Interpersonal and team skills, again the facilitation. So a facilitator helps align team discussions and ensures unbiased input during the risk assessment meeting. Representations of uncertainty. So we can use the probability distributions to model uncertain factors in cost, time, or resources like triangular distribution, beta distribution, and branching method. Data analysis technique. So very common method is simulation or Monte Carlo analysis. So we run multiple scenarios to predict the likelihood of project completion within budget and schedule. For example, we can run, let's say, 10,000 simulations on project cost, which will predict there is an 85% chances of the total cost will stay below some certain figure, let's say $15 million. Sensitivity analysis, or we call it tornado diagram. So it identifies the most critical risk affecting the project duration or cost. Decision tree analysis. It helps decide between multiple risk response strategies. For example, we have option 1, buy all the solar panels in advance. So what will happen? It will give us the higher upfront cost, but lower supply risk. And option 2 is buy panels in phases. So we will get the lower cost now, but risk of future price hikes. Influence diagram. These are the visual maps which shows how different risks influence the project outcomes. For example, a diagram shows how labor shortages, weather conditions, and equipment failures interact to impact the project timelines. Outputs, project document updates. So risk report will be updated based on this perform quantitative risk analysis process. Next process is plan risk responses. In this process, we develop strategies and actions to reduce threats, maximize opportunities, and manage overall project risk. So inputs here are again the same: project management plan, project documents, EFs, and OPAs. Tools and techniques, expert judgment, data gathering, interpersonal and team skills. So techniques like conflict resolution and facilitation to align the teams on risk response plans. For example, if there is a disagreement between the engineering and procurement teams on the type of transformer to use, so facilitation sessions help find a common ground. Strategies for threats, negative risk. So there are 4 strategies: avoid, mitigate, transfer, and accept. Avoid means completely remove the risk by changing the plan. So for example, if the selected transformer supplier has a history of late delivery, so what we can decide to choose a more reliable supplier to avoid the potential delays. Mitigate. Take steps to reduce the impact or likelihood of a risk. For example, if there is a risk of bad weather delaying the solar panel installation, so we can mitigate it by scheduling work in favorable seasons and having temporary shelters ready. Transfer. We can shift the risk to a third party, like for insurance or subcontracting. Accept means do nothing specific and deal with it if it happens. So if there is a risk of minor site disruption due to the local events, so we may choose to accept it as the impact is very minimal. Similarly, strategies for opportunities. So there are 4 strategies: exploit, enhance, share, and accept. Exploit means ensure the opportunity happens. For example, if a new high efficiency inverter becomes available, so upgrading to it could exploit better performance and energy output. Enhance, increase the probability or impact of a positive risk. If suppose a skill team is available ahead of schedule, so we can enhance efficiency by starting electrical wiring task earlier. Share, partner with a third party to leverage an opportunity. For example, partnering with a logistic company specializing in heavy equipment transport can help share the benefits of faster and safer delivery. Accept, take advantage of an opportunity if it happens, but do nothing proactively. For example, if a manufacturer offers a discount on bulk solar panel orders, so we may accept it if it fits the budget, but we won't change plans to chase the discounts. Contingency response strategy means pre-planned actions to execute if a risk occurs. For example, if the main crane breaks down during installation, so the contingent response could be to have a rental crane on standby to avoid the delays. Strategies for overall project risk. So we use the same strategies just we discussed: avoid, exploit, transfer or share, mitigate or enhance, and accept. Data analysis. So we can use techniques such as cost benefit analysis or decision tree analysis to determine the best response. Decision making. We can use the techniques like multi-criteria decision analysis to select the best risk response strategies. Come to the outputs. So change request. Changes to the cost, schedule, and other aspects of the project management plan may arise due to the planned risk responses. These changes are processed through the integrated change control process. Project management plan updates. So various plans within the project management plan may need to be updated, like schedule management plan, changes to resource allocation or scheduled strategies. Cost management plan may be updated, adjustment to cost, tracking or budget strategy. Quality management plan, changes to quality control or processes. Resource management plan, updates to resource allocation and strategies. Procurement management plan. So it may be we have to do the modification to make or buy decision or contract types. Scope, schedule or cost baseline. So adjustment to the project scope, schedule or cost based on the risk response outcomes. Project document updates like assumption log, cost forecast, lessons learned register, project schedule, project team assignment, risk register. These all project documents will be updated on risk response outcomes. Next process is implement risk responses. Implement risk responses is the process of implementing agreed upon risk response plans. So inputs here, again the project management plan. So it will contain the risk management plan, project documents like lessons learned register, risk report, and OPAs, which includes the lessons learned repository, knowledge from the similar past projects to guide the implementation of effective risk responses. Tools and techniques, expert judgment. We can use the knowledge from specialized individuals or groups to validate, adjust, or decide the best way to implement the risk responses. Interpersonal and team skills. So influencing is the best tool. The project manager may need to influence stakeholders or team members to take the necessary actions for implementing the risk responses. PMIS, Project Management Information System. We can use the PMIS tools like schedule, resource, and cost software to integrate risk response plans into the project, which ensure they are aligned with other activities. Outputs, change request. If risk responses impact cost, schedule, or other project elements, so change requests are made and reviewed through the change control process. Project document updates. So issue log, lessons learned register, project team assignment, risk register, risk report. All these documents will be updated based on the implement risk responses process. The last process is monitor risk. Monitor risk is the process of tracking how well risk response plans are being carried out, keeping an eye on known risks, identifying new risks, and assessing the effectiveness of the overall risk management process throughout the project. So inputs here are project management plan, which guides the monitoring processes, including how and when risks are reviewed, roles, responsibilities, and reporting formats. Project documents, issue log, lessons learned register, risk report. These all documents will give the inputs to the monitor risk process. Work performance data, it contains the project status, which include implemented risk responses, active risk, and closed out risk. Work performance reports, it provides analyzed data on project performance, including variance analysis, earned value, and forecasting, so which are relevant for the monitoring risk performance. Come to the tools and techniques. Data analysis. We can carry out technical performance analysis. We can compare the actual technical result to planned performance measures to identify the potential risk. Reserve analysis can be performed, like we can compare remaining contingency reserve to remaining risk, which help determine if reserves are sufficient or not. Audits. Risk audits assess the effectiveness of the risk management process, typically held at defined intervals as per the risk management plan. Meetings. Regular risk reviews to assess the effectiveness of risk responses, identify new risks, and document the lessons learned for the future phases of project. Outputs. Work performance information. It shows how the risk management process is performing by comparing actual risk with expected outcomes, which indicate the effectiveness of response plans. Change request. It can be triggered to modify cost, schedule, or other components of the project management plan, addressing the overall or individual project risk. Project management plan updates. Any changes to the plan go through the change control process and may impact various project management components. Project document updates, like assumption log, it will be updated with new assumptions, constraints, or changes to existing ones. Issue log will be updated for new issues identified during risk monitoring. Lessons learned register will be updated with risk related lessons learned for the future phases of project. Risk register, it will be updated with new or changed risk responses, and risk status. Risk report, It will reflect the current risk status, including top risk, responses, and effectiveness of risk management. OPA updates. It will update to templates for the risk management and risk breakdown structure. So we have reached the end of this episode and we have successfully covered another milestone in our project management journey, focusing on project risk management. Before we wrap up, I'd like to kindly ask for your support. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement truly means a lot to me. Namaste, goodbye, Sampai Jumpa.